guys, how are you? A little bit of soundtrack for Cowboy Bebop. Never been a huge anime manga fan. But with my kind of displeasure with DC lately with their animated movies, giving them a chance, and then them finally, in my opinion, kind of shit in the bed once too often, that I've kind of packed it in as far as these last two movies happened. First of all, that they were in 2 parts, and second of all, that I'm just sick and tired of their animation style, and to my mind not putting any effort into making something that looks unique, let alone making some animation that suits the story that they're fitting. Because as everybody knows who reads comics, especially when you get to some more grittier tales, you want the fucking artwork to mirror what's going on in the story, and that's just not going to happen with really sharp, crisp lines and really nice colors and fucking CG cars, you know. So anyway, my disgust of that has led me and my son back to watching Batman the Animated Series, when they actually could do some things that looked fantastic, even though the early ones, especially watching that first season again, those early ones were really, really rough. And that led me to watching some of my other stuff, which one of them was Cowboy Bebop, which still stands up to me to this day. Not only is it a great series about kind of these bounty hunters in space, the music is completely kick-ass. Lots of jazz, some blues, even some rock, and you know, that sort of thing. And years and years ago, when I lived in Ontario, went to a comic sci-fi convention in Toronto, and managed to find 2 of the CDs. There was a whole bunch of them at that time. A lot of that stuff was really, really expensive. In Waterloo, they had a anime club that I was a part of, where I think it was once a month or twice a month. We went down and they rented a room in the university, and they showed a bunch of series. I think they showed Kenshin, Cowboy Bebop, Berserk. Those were the 3 that I really enjoyed. There was a couple though. I think there was like I don't think it was Battle of the Planets, but it was something like that, something kind of more epic that I really liked. Can't remember what else. Anyway, so I used to go and check those out, and Cowboy Bebop and Berserk really stuck with me. So my point is, yeah, it's nice that there's still good animation out there and that it still holds up. And then speaking of animation and art and stuff, I've been getting back into doing some more art myself as well, and recently heard about these Copic markers, and they are pretty pricey, but they have some bonuses, hundreds of different colors, refillable markers that when you do refill them, you can mix your own colors as well, so you can create your own palettes and stuff. They sell sets of them for kind of reduced prices, and they have different styles. One is like a real fat tip, one is kind of more fine point. The one that I went for is called the Copic Sketch Marker. They're all double-sided, and this one side has a wedge, kind of a wedge shape to it, and the other side is what I really wanted, which was more a brush, so it comes to a nice fine tip. So will hopefully, with some practice, allow me to get some nice quality line work there. So I've never really used brushes before for my art, so I decided to practice by mimicking some of who I consider amazing illustrators. Bruce Timm being one of them. Found a bunch of his sketches online, taken from the book Good Girls, I think it was called, where it's more pin-up style art that he does. And then the man who will always be my favorite, Darwin Cook. And it's interesting seeing them both side by side, or drawing them both side by side, seeing some of the similarities. So The one I just wanted to show you quickly was one that I did of Darwin Cook sketch. Same thing, just kind of looked up Darwin Cook sketchbook on the internet and went through all the pictures and saved a couple to my phone and sketched them out. And this one I was pretty happy with. I've done the couple of Bruce Timms that I did. I don't really want to show you. They turned out horribly, just because getting used to the pen and everything. This one I felt like I started getting a handle on it. So Darwin Cook used to do animation with Bruce Timm at DC, and he was responsible for the intro to the Batman Beyond series. I think he did some work on Batman animated series as well too, as far as maybe storyboarding or plotting out some of the scenes, and maybe when it went into Justice League as well. 90% sure about that. But it's neat, especially drawing them back to back, like sitting and studying their drawings and actually drawing them yourself, to see a lot of the similarities as far as like shape goes. Cook definitely has I don't know, he's got a sexier style for the women, that's for sure, and it's definitely in the eyes and the mouth, but there's a lot of the face structure that's pretty similar, and lines on arms and things like that, like all these lines down here. Still very Bruce Timm-ish, and his women seem a little fuller as far as that goes, as opposed to Bruce Timm's. So it was great to draw, and I think that one turned out pretty great. Just using old backing boards from comics as I rebag and board. I save a lot of the boards if they're still in kind of decent shape and draw on those, because I like the not the smooth, not the good side, the bad side. It kind of absorbs the ink a little more. So yeah, that's that. I'm trying to get back into art a little bit more, and we'll see how that goes. I filmed this already once, and the camera crapped out on me. I've been having a love-hate relationship with this camera, and this is kind of another setup in trying to get myself a distance away so that zooming action and noise doesn't happen. I was thinking about it today. Once I start work again, I'd love to just kind of invest in just a really cheap point and shoot with a basic video option on it. This one is this camera's kind of fucked up on me one too many times, and I'm getting a bit sick of it. So I filmed this once before. I'm going to keep some of it out and kind of start from here. Just wanted to talk about a couple of things I'd read and something I'm looking forward to. What I'm looking forward to the most, Shaolin Cowboy coming back to Dark Horse. It just says on the back, coming soon. And that's it. And I mean, I know that Darrow is notorious for putting ads. I heard an interview with him, I think on the Inkstuds show there, and he was talking about some early comics that he did where he put advertisements for upcoming books and upcoming characters and storylines, and that they were apparently complete bullshit. So I'm hoping that this isn't fake on the back here. I'm hoping that it's really coming. I haven't looked on the Dark Horse site and done that sort of research. So this is Jeff Darrow doing illustrations for a story by Andrew Bashes, who, if you do some searching on the internet, he's kind of a crime novelist. And then also doing some for another author, Michael A. Black. And I'll just kind of show you a little bit. He had a series. This series was Burly Man released it at one point, which is the Wachowski brothers from The Matrix, and it crapped out. I have the last issue that I have is number 7. I believe that's the last issue that got published. So this is the first I've seen of Shaolin Cowboy for, I don't know, maybe 5 years, maybe? I don't really know the years that these came out. So this is kind of what you're getting here. It's a lot of text, and then with some drawings alongside by Darrow. Worth picking up. $16 here, I think it says on the front, and worth it. It's what do we got here? Is there a page number on any of these pages here? 114, 115, kind of 120-ish pages. So and then little write-ups on them. Andrew Bashes has been a federal investigator in sexually transmitted diseases a social services caseworker, and a labor organizer, and is directed at maximum security prison for aggressive, violent youth. Now a lawyer in private practice, he represents children and youth exclusively. He's the author of numerous novels, including the Burke series, 2 collections of short stories, and a wide variety of other material, including song lyrics, graphic novels, essays, and a children's book for adults. It talks about where his work has been published and what awards he's won. Yeah, I think that the money from this was going to I'm not sure if it was going to this National Association to Protect Children, but there was some proceeds from the book going to an organization that helps children. So it's worth checking out for that as well. But also just for some great stories and some crazy fucking Darrow art as always. So I really hope that that does come back. I really hope that that's true. Just a quick look. I don't want to milk this too long. Issue 2, I could never find issue 1. When I kind of came into Shaolin Cowboy, I think I jumped in on like issue 4 or 5, and the comic shop that I had originally bought them from had only a few of the back issues, and I could never find number 1. Number 3, let's have a quick crack open here and see what year we're looking. Oh yeah, so 2005, so 8 going on 8 years ago now. And while it's open, let's see if we can find a good page to show you. Oh, there's a little sample, some color, and you know, if you're familiar with Darrow's art, you know exactly what to expect. Yeah, great stuff. Seriously, download some Cowboy Bebop music. It's, as you can hear, it's fantastic stuff. Number 4. Number 5. Number 6. And numero 7. So that was that series. So let's hope that that comes back pretty soon, and if it does come back, highly recommend checking it out. I'm sure we're in for some crazy fucking stories and fantastic art. And the other thing that I finished reading, Sleepy Reader last year had a contest at Christmas where he wanted to buy some people Christmas presents. You had to post something, Merry Xmas Damien, in his comments, and then he had a draw. And one of the winners was Travis, Oddfellow's Thoughts, and Damien sent him Omega, the first 10. And that kind of sparked that. I'd had these for a little while. A bunch of these I got from my comic shop, which I have a video about my thoughts about my comic shop early on, 3, 4, 5, somewhere in there. So if you want to see that, and it just reminded me I still had these original ones and the 10-issue reprint, or not reprint, new miniseries from 2008, I believe. December 2007 was issue 1, I think, and then going into 2008. So I finished reading these in kind of a day or two, and I dug it. When I was reading through the first series, it didn't strike me at first as anything mind-blowing. Like, I did enjoy the story, and I really liked the mystery involved. Steve Gerber was one of the writers, one of the authors, who also did Howard the Duck. And Jim Mooney was the artist, and Mary Screens was the other writer and creator. Yeah, this kid who's kind of been homeschooled, he's getting taken to a public school, he doesn't want to go, there's a horrible car accident. This happens in the first issue, it's by no means any sort of spoiler. And his parents die. Last image it sees is his mother's head and it's a robotic head. And he kind of starts to wonder what the hell kind of world he was living in. The way he talks, the way all the characters talk in this is completely unique. The world is kind of based on reality in the Marvel Universe, but is definitely still its own entity, even though he ends up living in Hell's Kitchen with this nurse and her friend, who's a photographer for the Daily Planet, and in one of the issues, J. Jonah Jameson and what I'm assuming is Peter Parker make a little appearance as well. Fantastic. I mean, you kind of take this whole trip as far as don't really know what's going on, and then of course you come to what everybody knows is it was cancelled. So the issue number 10 was their last issue, and they tried to tie it up in the Defenders. I don't have those Defenders issues. I was going to wait until I got them, but I'm happier that I read it like this as kind of an incomplete thing before going into this other Omega. I think I've heard also that the Defenders issues aren't that amazing, so yeah, I mean, I enjoyed this first 10. I wasn't blown away by it, but I did enjoy it for sure. And my original thought was, okay, I've read that, now I can trade it and get some other books, and I'm sure I can trade it downtown at one of the shops I go to. But after I read the second, I won't show you all the covers. I think there's videos from other people. Captain Cummings, I think, has one where he shows the covers, and I'm sure that Travis shows the covers in his. But then once I finished this second series, I realized I can't let go half of it. It really does go together for me. And this one impressed me quite a bit. We won't go through this issue, I'll go through one later on. So that was number 1. They keep some of the same storylines, the plot ideas as far as the kid is homeschooled, it's a different name, same character though, still an accident, still his robot parents, still going to live with a nurse in New York, I believe, not in, there's no mention of Hell's Kitchen, I don't believe. Going to public school, it's much shorter lived here, the disaster that comes with that in a pretty, what took me a bit by surprise, so what happened to one of the characters, I didn't expect it to happen. I thought it was really well done though. And then there's a character, the Mink, who's kind of trying to brand himself as this superhero for hire in town, and sees Omega as his kind of competition. There's a statue that becomes our narrator for a few of the final issues. There's Omega, there's the statue there. There's Omega that doesn't really say much, insists on catching his own chickens, and in one I think eats a bald eagle. There's nanotechnology and people turning into robots due to the food that they're eating. Just a ton of crazy shit. And it's very, very entertaining, and what's so entertaining about it is kind of, as you're going, you're kind of getting nuggets along the way, but it still ultimately is kind of unanswered, and you're kind of left in this not quite fully fleshed out world, which I find pretty fascinating. Nothing is a firm answer. In one of the issues, Omega is captured by the Mink and locked in a room, and they're trying to get some information out of him before he puts him in a labyrinth where he's supposed to get killed. He wants to, eventually he's going to die. Omega's going to die. And in this issue here, Omega kind of cracks under the pressure of being isolated and not fed and everything, and draws a comic strip himself of his time being, because he never talks. He draws a comic strip as far as what his history is and how he's come to be. So as soon as you open up the book, you're met with Omega's drawings, and like I said, because of the fact that nothing is really fully explained ever, and weird shifts and things happen with each issue, it's great to open up an issue and just be met with this and not know what the hell is going on, and realize that you're getting kind of a history, and what does this have to do with the book, and I just found there was enough twists and stuff. As to keep me interested through the whole thing. And then the last page there before we get back into the actual comic itself, and I'll just show you a couple of pages of the artwork from here. So there's a sample of, sorry, I don't know if I said their names. Jonathan Lethem is the artist, and Farrell Dalrymple, Jonathan Lethem is the writer. Farrell Dalrymple is the artist. So that's that there. So yeah, one of those journeys as far as anything could happen at any time. Are there parts of it that are a little too much for their own good as far as their ideas, and maybe a little kind of cheesy? One of the things that did bug me was the narrator statue. There was a couple of points where I found it a little much, as far as it was too much information at points that I thought it would be better off without it. And I always kind of think that narrator thing is a little bit of a cop-out as far as anytime you're watching a movie or something. You don't have to follow, don't worry about it. Eventually somebody's going to come and narrate and tell what you've just seen, so that sort of thing. And then it kind of really pinpoints it down. It really kind of centers it down a particular path, so you're not left with your own ideas. And then we get to issue 10, and it's a completely silent issue. It's just art through the whole way. I think there's one panel where there's some dialogue, and the dialogue is really inconsequential. So yeah, pretty impressed. And even by the end you get kind of, it ties it up, sure, but not really. What was the whole point of it? What was the connection? Not really. You're sort of sure, but I mean, they do sort of spell it out, what the connection between the boy and Omega are, but still, it's how did it come to be and this sort of thing. Yeah, I enjoyed it. I thought it was pretty damn entertaining. So, Omega, I definitely suggest checking both of these out. Just a fun read. Something that isn't going to stick with me for the rest of my life as far as one of the greatest comics I've ever read, but very, very enjoyable. Really glad I finally managed to dig into those. So on that note, Omega, Shaolin, Cowboy Bebop, Darwin Cook, kind of covered all the bases. I know you love the flowers behind me. We're probably going to do a couple more videos from here. We'll see how it goes. It's sure as hell a lot more comfortable than sitting on the floor in there. So, thanks for watching. Let me know your thoughts on, if you're into animation, what your thoughts are on the DC and what you think of the style, and just one other thought on that. This is probably gonna just be aware that this kind of thing will probably travel through a few of my videos, because I've always been a huge fan of DC animated stuff, and I'm just really disappointed. Part of the problem is I think their whole mandate of we got to do 3 a year or 4 a year or whatever it was. I think it's 4 a year. Why not just make it 2? Why not just make it 1? If you're going to do a 2-parter, why not take your time and put some actual time into it? I mean, it's the classic. It's the same thing I was talking about in another video as far as people having problems with the main companies, DC, Marvel, doing the shit that they do to kind of make some money, and it's something that I'm forgetting and telling myself right this moment, actually. At the end of the day, that's what they're there for. It's there to generate money. They gotta get this shit out the door as quick as possible. It's something that's worked in the past, like take the Amazing Spider-Man cartoon. When Bakshi came to town talking about that, he flushed out many of an article, many of an episode he was saying with the guys would come to him with questions as far as like, where should we go from here? We still need to make some time up to get it out. He's like, whatever. Just have him swing around the town for a while. Just have him swinging and fill that up for like 4 minutes and just get it out the door. And that's kind of always the way that it is. You got to get it out there. You got to get it out there. You don't want too much time so your audience is not going to start traipsing elsewhere to buy other stuff. I know it's just disappointing because I know that they can do it. I know that they can have a really unique style. and I just really wish that they would, especially when they're going to start getting into some really heavy DC books from the past that the art is integral to the story, completely hand in hand. Yeah. Anyway, let's hear what your thoughts are on that, some of the animation stuff. I know that there's people that have loved it, but I'm just curious to see what everybody else thinks. So, thanks for watching.